Mr. Paul Nuttall.
I must say I'm absolutely shattered, so I will struggle on through this. I gave a speech last night in Plymouth, and I've travelled up this morning to Pontefract, and as soon as I leave here I'm off to Worcester to give another speech, and for that I blame Mike Hookham, Ray Finch, Bill Etheridge and all those other MPs who encouraged me to stand for the leadership. Good job, Roger. It's great to be here in Yorkshire. It's a region which I hold close to my heart and have done for many years, and I've been impressed by the way the region has moved forward and the way it has changed and the way that you take local elections very seriously indeed. I'm impressed by what you have achieved in Rotherham in particular. I'm impressed by what you're achieving in Sheffield, and I remember a couple of years ago when we had Jack Clarkson standing as the Police and Crime Commissioner candidate when we ran Labour close in that election too. You have two fantastic MEPs, you have a good regional committee. It's a region which is really motoring and really in many ways a beacon of light for the rest of the country. And in this region you have fantastic opportunities to move this party forward. You have a lot of Labour MPs in this region, many Labour MPs who voted to remain and want to remain inside the European Union, yet their electors voted en masse to leave the European Union. And these are the kinds of MPs that we must go after in future, because they are out of kilter, out of step with their own electorates. And these are the kind of constituencies that UKIP can move in and begin to take votes from the Labour Party. But equally, what's interesting about this constituency, particularly in the south of the constituency, there are electors there, voters, who will never vote Conservative again in their lives, particularly after the latter part of the Thatcher era. So many of these people, working class folk, are patriotic, feel out of step with the modern Labour Party, and want somewhere else to go. They're not going to vote Tory. They're not going to vote Lib Dem. UKIP can become their home. We can become the patriotic voice of these working people, and we can replace the Labour Party in these constituencies. Because think about it. What is this Labour Party today? Well, it's a Labour Party which has a leader who refuses to sing our national anthem, who seems more at home with Hezbollah and Hamas than he is with working people in the north of England. You have a shadow foreign secretary who sneers at the cross of St. George. You have a shadow chancellor that says nice things about the IRA. None of these people would be at home in a working man's club in the north of England. And you look at these people and, you know, working class Labour voters must look at them and think, do you know what? You don't look like me, you don't act like me, you're not from the same background as me, you don't give a straight answer to a straight question. Because in the days of Clement Attlee and Hugh Gateskill, the Labour Party MPs generally came from working class backgrounds. They came from the mines, they came from the docks, they came from the factories. But look now, the Labour Party is run by middle class intellectuals who have nothing in common with working people, and they wouldn't know about it. They wouldn't know a council estate or a council house if it fell out of the sky and landed on their heads. We have a fantastic opportunity with Conservative voters as well. Because although Mrs May is having a honeymoon period, it will not last. That I guarantee. History proves that to be the case. In her time as Home Secretary, she talked the talk, but very rarely walked the walk. She spoke, for example, about the need to cut immigration figures. Yet in 2015 alone, a city the size of Newcastle upon Tyne came to this country net. That isn't a success. And we know, don't we, what happens if you have uncontrolled and unfettered immigration? It hurts the poorest people in society. It's people in working class communities who see their wages stagnated. It's people in working class communities who are put out of work. It doesn't affect the establishment. It doesn't affect those who live in big houses in London. Isn't it interesting that at the moment, when it comes to immigration, it's people in big houses telling people in small houses that there's room for more people to come. What we must be as a party is a party that wants fair but firm immigration policies. We want an Australian points-based system. We want to say to people, if you've got the skills, then come and work in this country. But we have to also be the party that says we will never allow people to come here and take out of the system without ever putting in theirs. And I guarantee the wheels will fall off Mrs May's government, and when it does, when they fail to meet their promises, UKIP will be there to pick up the pieces. And the first example of the wheels falling off came last week, when a set of High Court judges pitted parliamentarians and Parliament against the people, when they said that Parliament should have the right to vote before Article 50 is triggered. And now you have parliamentarians like Anna Soubry, Nick Clegg, Ed Miliband, telling us that they need that vote because parliamentary sovereignty is so important. But isn't it interesting that these same people didn't think that parliamentary sovereignty was important when we've been handing over competences to Brussels year on year? The whole thing is a charade. It is designed to either delay Brexit or water it down. And when I say water it down, I mean they want us to stay within the single market. And what is this single market? Well, if we stay in it, we still have to have freedom of movement of people, which means we still have open borders. We still have to pay a membership fee, and we still have to comply with Brussels regulations and directives, like Norway, in effect a fax democracy. And you Nick Cleggs and Ed Milibands and Anna Soubrys of this world think that's a wonderful idea, and they claim that the British people didn't know what they were voting for on June the 23rd. Of course we did. UKIP said it, Leave.eu said it, Vote Leave said it. It was about control. Control of our own borders, control of our own finances, and control of our own laws, and we cannot have that if we stay in the single market. And the reason why the country needs UKIP more now than ever before is because we have to be the people that hold the government's feet to the fire to ensure Brexit really does mean Brexit. And we have these great opportunities, but we will only make the most of these opportunities if we as a party are on the pitch to kick the ball into that open net. And I've witnessed what's gone on within the party over the summer in particular, with horror and incredulity. I've basically been watching the party I love and have helped grow from nothing become or resemble a shambles. And I've decided to stand in this leadership election as the unity candidate, the candidate who will bring people together, with a caveat. The caveat to me standing is that November the 28th, when the new leader is elected, has to be day zero. Everything which has gone before has to be put in a little box called the past. Factionalism has to end. People need to work together. They need to understand the cause is bigger than any personality. We need a unified UKIP, not only for the members, not only for the 4 million people who voted for us in the general election, but the 17.5 million people who voted Brexit demand there is a unified UKIP, and under my leadership I guarantee I will give you a unified UKIP. But not only does UKIP need to unify, it needs the right policies to attract more votes. And what do I mean by these policies? We need to be the party that protects the NHS. We say it is a national health service, not an international health service. And in cutting down on health tourism, we can save up to £2 billion every single year. And let me suggest this, with that money, why don't we invest it back into the NHS and ensure we can do away with hospital car parking? And hospital car parking charges, by the way. We have to be the party that becomes the party of the victim and not the criminal. We have to be committed to ripping up the Human Rights Act and replacing it with a British Bill of Rights for British people. We have to be a party that is committed to social mobility. It cannot be right, ladies and gentlemen, that there were more working class kids at Oxbridge than there in the 1960s than there is now. We have education in this country by wealth and not ability. There is no reason in the 21st century why working class kids cannot break out of their communities and better themselves. But that is what is happening because social mobility has stagnated. I want to see a country where working class kids have the same opportunities as middle class kids. They have the opportunity to go to a good school. They have the opportunity to go to college and a good university. But that isn't happening at the moment in great numbers. I was horrified a couple of years ago to find out that in the north of Liverpool, where I'm from, only two kids got into Oxbridge. It is an appalling statistic and one that just simply is not acceptable. And we in UKIP believe in social mobility. We in UKIP believe in education by ability and not wealth. And we need to get social mobility motoring again. We need to give working class kids those opportunities. And to do so, UKIP under my leadership will be committed to putting a grammar school in every single town in this country. We must be a party that is committed to cutting a foreign aid budget that is costing this country £25 million every single day. That needs to be reduced significantly. Yes, we should give foreign aid to countries that need it, countries where there is a humanitarian crisis, countries where they've had an Ebola crisis or there's starving children, but we shouldn't be giving foreign aid to countries that are richer than ourselves. China, Brazil, India with its own space program, its own aircraft carriers, more millionaires and billionaires than ourselves. I'm sorry, that is your taxation, and it should be spent here, in our country, on our schools, on our hospitals, on our military, and we should be a party that is not afraid to say, charity begins at home. We must be the party that backs our military. We must comply with our defence spending commitments. Those that we've given to NATO, those that Donald Trump is talking about at the moment. And we must be a party that is committed to the military covenant, not only ensuring that our brave boys and girls in the armed forces have the best equipment possible, but that we look after them once they leave the military too. You know, it cannot be right that we live in a society where 9,000 veterans slept rough last night. That is an appalling statistic, and yet we're handing money over in foreign aid to countries that are richer than ourselves. That money should be spent ensuring those brave boys and girls that slept rough last night should have a bed, should have a home, and should be looked after by the country which they served. We must be radical. We are on issues. I've spoken before about my belief in an English Parliament. Constitutional change is coming. We must look at the House of Lords and question whether an unelected second chamber is really relevant in the 21st century. We must also be radical and talk about issues that other parties don't want to touch. We must say that female genital mutilation has no place in 21st century Britain. We must say forced marriage has no place in 21st century Britain. And we must say that Sharia courts, where the word of a woman is only half that of a man, have no place in 21st century Britain. You know, these are all things that we need to talk about. And if I'm elected as your leader, I will be putting together policy groups, and we will be utilising talent throughout the party, and you will be asked to supply your CVs, get on these working groups, and let's push forward with radical policies. We owe it to the country to come together as a party and prosper. We've had great successes in the past. They should never be denigrated. They should be celebrated. I'll give you 3 perfect examples. In 2014, we as a party became the first since 1906 to win a national election that wasn't Labour or the Conservatives. It was a great achievement in 2014. In 2015, we garnered 4 million votes at the general election and only got 1 MP because of an outdated and outmoded electoral system. In 2013, I believe we had our greatest success, because in 2013, we forced David Cameron, the then British Prime Minister, to give a referendum that he never wanted to give. And we have Brexit as a result. The successes have been great, but we can be bigger, better and stronger. We have 33,000 members at this present moment in time. We need to see that treble over the next 4 years. We need to continue to drill down in council chambers, because we know that they are the gateway to Westminster. We need more UKIP members elected to the House of Commons in 2020, and we need to target sensibly. These things can be achieved under my leadership, and I hope I have your support, because UKIP's future is bright, but it will only be bright if we are prepared to unite. Thank you very much for listening to me today.
You can use the popular candidate.